Hi guys, I'm Greg Howlett, and I want to give you a cool little chord today that you can use in your music. This is something that I like to do all the time. It's actually sort of an extension of what we talked about in the last video where we were talking about changing your 5 chords into 2/5 progressions. Well, guess what? If we can change a 5 chord into 2/5, we can also throw a chord in front of the 2. So now we have a 3 chord progression. And so I'm going to give you a chord that works really well in front of the 2 chord. So we'll just call it, for the moment, we'll call it cool chord, 2 chord, 5 chord, right? Because I haven't told you what the cool chord is. The cool chord is a flat 3 diminished chord, actually a flat 3 diminished 7th. And so let's talk about what that is. Really, there's 2 things to know. First of all, flat 3 refers to the position of the chord within the key. We're going to be playing today in the key of B flat. The way you find flat 3 is you play the B flat major scale and go 1, 2, 3, go to the 3rd note, then go down a half step. In other words, we're flatting the 3rd note. So in the key of B flat, we're talking about D flat. D flat is the flat 3. So once you find D flat, then you need to build a diminished 7th on top of that. And a diminished 7th chord is very simply 4 notes, all separated by minor thirds. So you would have a D flat, an E, a G, and a B flat. Okay, that's a diminished sound. You guys hear that quite often in modern music. So there is the cool chord, flat 3 diminished 7th, which in the case of B flat, which is what we're about to play in, that means a D flat diminished 7th. Okay. Now we're going to be working today with a chord, not a chord, a song called the Old Rugged Cross. It's a sort of old hymn. And we're going to use the flat 3 diminished chord at the beginning of the chorus, actually at the end of the verse before the chorus starts. So I'll play us to that point, just so you remember the song, and then we'll use the new chord. Verse, and we're sitting on that 1 chord for 2 bars. We're in 3/4 time, so we're sitting on that 1 chord for 6 beats, which gets a little repetitive, right? So what I want to do is I want to actually use the new cool chord in that spot. We're going to sort of subdivide that 2 bars into a bar of 1 and a bar of the flat 3 half diminished, or flat 3 diminished 7th. But for that to work, we have to know that the next chord that we play is going to be a 2 chord, right? Because remember, the flat 3 half diminished resolves to 2. And some of you are going to say, Greg, it actually resolves to other chords. I know that, but let's just pretend for today. We're resolving flat 3 diminished to 2. So let's look at the chorus. Now the chorus starts on a 5 chord, right? 2 bars of a 5 chord. And that's a perfect candidate for us to do what we did in the last video, where we're going to change the first bar to a 2 chord, second bar to a 5. This is the sound you get. Really nice. Okay, so we're all set with the start of the chorus. We're going to play 2/5. And guess what? Now that we have a 2 chord at the beginning of the chorus, we can go back to that 2-bar interlude, or 2 bars at the end of the verse, and we can change some of that time from a 1 chord over to the flat 3 diminished. Okay. Now we can do this a couple of different ways. The first way we'll do it, I'm just going to play the entire 2nd bar as flat 3 diminished 7th. So the first bar is going to stay a 1. Second bar will be flat 3 diminished. I keep saying half diminished. Flat 3 diminished 7th. Resolving to a 2 chord to start the chorus, okay? 1. Really nice sound, isn't it? And then there's your 2. So let me call out the chords as we do it. Oh, I'm sorry, we're starting on 1. Well, let me back up a little bit. 1. That's your flat 3 diminished. 2, 5. Right? So it's a really nice sound. Now, I probably wouldn't do that typically myself, but again, this is a stylistic thing. I probably would not play the flat 3 diminished 7th until the second beat. I'll show it to you in a second. But again, it's not a matter of right or wrong. It sounds perfectly good the way that we just did it. That being said, let's do it maybe my way. So here we go with the chorus, or the verse again, the last line. 1. Okay, so I inserted a chord before the flat 3 diminished in that first beat of the second bar, and it's just a first inversion of a 1 chord, B flat over D. And the reason I did that is because it creates this nice downward movement. You're moving from D natural to D flat down to C. Okay, so I'll do that again. 1. You hear that in the bass? And so on. So that's a really nice sound. Again, we're moving. That's usually a good sound in the music that you do. Again, that chord's optional. You could stay on a 1 chord without inverting it for that first beat of the second bar, but that's the way I might do it. Well, good. I think that covers it, and hope that's helpful for you. You can use that in a lot of cases, and I guess I should tell you the big rule before I leave you, and that is this. This is true of any chord that you ever choose. It has to work with the melody notes. Now, in the case of a diminished chord, you have a lot of options of melody notes that will work with it. In this case, we have a D flat diminished chord. Any of the notes in the chord itself can be the melody note. And you also have 4 more options on any diminished chord, and those are the notes that are a half step below those chord notes in the diminished chord. So in this case, D flat, E, G, and B flat are your chord tones. Those can be melody notes, but also C, E flat, F sharp, and A can be melody notes because those are all a half step underneath the chord tones. I know that's a little bit confusing, but you'll get better sound in general with diminished chords if you are actually taking advantage of that. Use those notes that are a half step below the tones in the scale, or the chords, the notes in the scale in the chord. And well, let me just say that again because I just messed that up. If the melody note happens to be one of those notes that's a half step below one of the notes in the diminished chord itself, you get a really pretty sound like this. Really nice. It actually gives it sort of an exotic sound, and as you play with this, you'll see what I mean. Anyway, that's the rule. Now, in the case of this particular song, the melody that I'm playing over the diminished chord is A natural and then B flat. So the B flat belongs in the D flat diminished 7th, but the A is one of those special notes. It's a half step below. And that's sort of why that chord works so well right there. This is something you learn with time, but make sure that if you are going to use this chord, it has to work with the melody note. Otherwise, you can use it in a lot of different places. All right, hope you enjoy that, and I'll see you soon.